Hi everyone, my name's Lyle Sopel and I'm a jade and gemstone artist, and I'm here in my home today because we just attempted to do a broadcast from the studio, but we have technical difficulties there, and so I apologize for the impromptu effects of the earlier broadcast. But here I've got some great stuff I want to show you, and I want to talk to you about the large eagle that I just completed, and I want to answer some questions regarding the creative process and share some of my personal ideas on how the creative process takes place. But as you know, I just completed that large eagle and a totem that I'd been working on for months and months, and in fact we're going to deliver it to the client's home this afternoon. So really pleased with that, but I generally have a really difficult time separating myself from a project that's so involved, you know, something that's I have a lot of pieces that are kind of in the process while I'm working on other pieces, and I kind of like to have other subjects that keep my mind from being focused on one thing. So what the best thing that I can do to describe the creative process for me is when I'm really intensely involved with a subject, I like to just give myself a little bit of a break and I start something new just to keep my focus and come back and forth on the subject matter. So while I was working on the large eagle, I started this project, and I think I demonstrated it at some point with some drawings, and it started out very rough. So I started it and then I put it aside. So this is a piece that I'm using to help myself separate from the involvement of that larger, intense creative project. So giving myself a little bit of a break, and I'm working on a smaller piece. So I'm happy to be doing that. So let me just show you how it's come along so far, and we can see what I've done with it. So I feel like this is a real creative piece, and it takes a bit of an involvement in the let me see if I can get that in the right place here. So as you can see, it's in many different pieces. And let's see if I get this right. There we are. That piece goes on there. This is quartz crystal. And on the back side of the quartz crystal, I've engraved fish. That is going to be the prey of this kingfisher subject matter here. There we are. So it's an abstract water scene with a quartz crystal. This is a druzy quartz, which is kind of a brown with some copper minerals set inside of it. And below here is an obsidian base. And into the obsidian, I've also etched some fish, but you can't probably see that quite clearly in this light. So on top of it, this is a lapis lazuli bird, and you can see that the kingfisher is blue in color, and so that's why I've chose it. So it's made in various pieces, and as you can see, the beak is not yet carved as a stone piece. It's just a piece of plasticine that I've used to really have a look and maybe identify it. So when it's done, I'm going to have it sit right on top of the quartz like that. So he's diving after the fish that are engraved in the quartz, and it has kind of this nice environmental feel to it, and it has beautiful abstract lines that I really enjoy. So this is a piece that started as a rough drawing, and the creative process that I used to go through this was to really allow it to form on its own. I think that's kind of the easiest way to describe it. So I start with a general idea, like I have here in my sketch, which is very loose. And I begin the process by cutting the stone and working on the bird, but I allow the stone to kind of dictate what the final result should be. And so what I do to do that is just kind of open my mind when I'm looking at this piece, and it takes a lot of looking. It's it's a thing that's very important to me as the creator, is to always look and observe what I'm doing. And so through that looking, I have ideas, and the thing changes and forms as it goes along. Now, I'm not saying that that's a fickle mind, because I know Mary asked me last week about how do I proceed with a project when I have a fickle mind that's kind of tells me that this might be a better idea or that might be a better idea. So the point is just to relax with the thought and the idea that the intuitive mind can really direct how the sculpture should look. So I rely on that quite a bit. I feel comfortable in that sort of state of mind where I can relax and observe the piece. And I just let what wants to come, and I just follow through with that idea. Now, as I said, that doesn't come all the time without a lot of practice. So as I've said before, I've got more than 40 years of experience with this kind of thing, this creative process. So I'm very well practiced, and just to open my mind to the creative process is how I develop ideas. Now, last week I talked briefly about the idea of creativity coming from some mysterious place. So I shared the story about a friend that was exhibiting a painting in a gallery, and a collector asked him, you know, where did that creative idea come from? And he looked at them and said, you know, honestly, I don't know. So to me, that's very truthful, and it's a strong indication that our creative process is really beyond our conscious mind, and maybe even beyond our unconscious mind. So for me, I've studied the mind. It's been a kind of a hobby of mine for many, many years, and I love that through. I've studied various Indian philosophies and Buddhist philosophies. It's just kind of a thing that I enjoy, and I've experimented with in a lot of ways. So let me give you an example of how I believe the creative mind works. So by knowing these different ideas or accepting these ideas is a way that you can develop as an artist. And as long as you know what the process is that's taking place, then you can have more control of it and become more creative, have greater ideas, and expand on what you can do as a visual artist or any other kind of artist. So let me begin by giving you an example of what the mind is. So right now, how we see the world and what we are talking about right now is the conscious mind. The conscious mind is probably the smallest of all the minds that we have. Now I say there's more minds because beyond the conscious mind, which we wake up to every morning, and it's the thing that, you know, helps us get through the day. And the conscious mind is influenced by the unconscious mind, which is much larger. So within the unconscious mind, there are different things that causes the conscious mind to be affected. And they're paradigms. A paradigm is like if you say to yourself, I'm a person that likes blue and I don't like yellow, or I'm a person that likes coffee, I don't like tea. I'm a person that drives a Ford, not a Chev. I'm a person that is intellectual or not intellectual. I'm a person that likes to do exercise or doesn't like to do exercise. So these ideas are formed in the unconscious mind, and they surround the unconscious mind in a great deal, and they affect it. So anytime you have a conscious thought about how to do something or whatever, it's going to be influenced by the unconscious mind with your belief system. And this is true of everybody, and it's not my concept, it's fact. It's how we work as people. But beyond that, beyond and a much greater scenario is the greater mind. Now, the greater mind is where we are influenced through like love. Things like love come from that, or intuitive knowledge comes from the greater mind. It can be called the unconscious mind, it can be called the spirit, it can be called all kinds of different things. But for this purpose, let's just think of it as the greater mind. So, as a creative person, when you relax yourself and you say, for me, when I look at a piece of stone or a piece of jade, I quite often immediately get an idea that will fit that stone, and I can see it complete and whole in the rough stone. That's just part of what I'm able to do, and I think that's a gift of mine. But, so where does that come from? It doesn't come from the conscious mind, which is what keeps us working in the day-to-day, or it doesn't come from the unconscious mind, because that's the influences that change it. I believe it comes from the greater mind. And it works through the unconscious mind to the conscious mind, and out pops the idea. So I was going to refer this concept to Picasso, because Picasso was an incredible artist who had like fantastic ideas. Then they just seemed to flow. He was like such a prolific artist. But he didn't work in reality. He worked in abstract forms. So that makes this idea somehow truer to me, that what comes through to the conscious mind doesn't have to be realistic. It can be abstract, because we can all, most people I think, can identify with Picasso. He's so famous that people really enjoy what he does, even though it's abstract. Now the question is, on the reverse side, why do you really appreciate Picasso, or why do you appreciate art that you can't explain? So as a viewer, let's use a different color here. Put a little eye in here. You see art for the first time, and you love it. You just love it. But why? Why do you love it? That's the question. Where does that feeling of appreciation and love come from? I say that for you as the viewer, you're seeing it with your conscious mind, but it's relating directly back to your greater mind. So when you see a work of art that's exceptionally well done, that art is the channel towards your greater mind. And the greater mind is where love is, where intuition is, and what all the beauty of our human existence is. So that's what art reflects back to us, and that's why we can say, oh, I love it, but I don't know why. And so when you see Picasso, who was a great master, what he had was, his gift was, he opened this channel between his conscious mind and the unconscious mind, and his ideas just flowed right through there. And he didn't need to have skill, he didn't need to have, particular brushstrokes. He would just flow onto the canvas, and we could appreciate just exactly what it was, because it was a pure essence of the greater mind. And so as an artist myself, that's what I really strive to do, is open this connection between my conscious mind and the greater mind. And the more I can do that, the more successful my work will be. So as I said last week, what's really important is the practice and the discipline, and really focusing and being involved in the creative process all the time. Because you're not going to be creative unless you have the intention to be creative. So that's my perspective, that to be involved gives me that open perspective to the greater mind. So I'd like to give you a little example, or how about a little exercise that as a creative person you might want to try, that will allow you to get a better connection to the greater mind. So it's very simple, and let me show you what I do. So this is a sketchbook that I keep regularly, and whenever I have an idea, I want to make a subject, a particular thing, I will research it. and I will get as much information as possible about that particular subject, whether it's a bird or a bear or whatever the subject is that I want to create. And I'll flood my mind with it. I'll get absorbed into that. So I'm absorbed. I go to my sketchbook and I just start drawing freely the subject in a lot of different ways. And I'm not particular about, how it should be as a sculptural form or whatever. I'm just being free and easy with the story, or not even a story, but just trying to allow the idea to come forth and come through. So when it finally does, I can be more precise with the drawing. And from the drawing, I can either go to a model or work directly into the subject, into the stone. So this is the exercise. If you'd like to try it,